What is up, guys? Vincent here, and in this video I'm going to be taking you all through how to install smart switches. And these are things that will plug into where you would normally have a toggle switch in your wall, something like this, and it allows you to hook them up to Wi-Fi or Alexa or whatever. And they can be a little bit tricky to wire because these are using AC current, so there are going to be at least 3 wires in these things. And this is a Honeywell, and it's been used, but I'm going to put it back into the wall. This has a thing where it tracks what day it is, and by the latitude and longitude it can also calculate when the sun goes down and up, so you can have your front lights come on and off at the appropriate times. But most of these smart switches, including the Wi-Fi connected ones, are going to be the same deal. And so what they have on the back of them are 3 wires. You have a line wire, a load wire, and then a neutral wire. And the important thing is that your neutral wire will always be white. Your line wire, it can be any number of colors because every manufacturer has their own standards, and so you do need to be really careful. And then your load wire will be the other wire. And then in addition to this, sometimes what you'll have is a green or bare copper ground wire, and it's not necessary. So like in the case of this particular unit, there's only 3 wires coming out of this, but on some of them, like we have here, there are 4 wires, and you have a green ground wire too. And you know, in the case of this manufacturer, their load wire is red, so that's what's going on here. But for the sake of continuing here, if you're going to be installing a smart switch, the first step to take before you touch any piece of electrical equipment is obviously going to be going to the circuit breaker. And in my house, it's in the garage, so hopefully people before you have been nice enough to write in what each one of these breakers corresponds to, so you don't have to kill power to the entire house. Yeah, so in this case, I'm going to be working on that switch over there. And so what we're going to do is just flip these switches, so you can see the kitchen lights turn off. And now we've turned off the switch as well. And so now that we've killed power, you would actually start disassembling this stuff. And I've already taken it apart, so so after you've taken it apart, you're probably going to see a lot of wires in the wall like this, and potentially other things. You do need AC current here to work with this stuff, so not every one of these boxes will necessarily have the appropriate wires. Hopefully you do. But in this case, we've identified the wires that we have or will be using. And the very important thing to do in this case is, it's pretty obvious. A lot of this stuff is very self-explanatory. You take off the faceplate. Generally, it's a flathead or Phillips screwdriver. After you take off the flathead or Phillips screwdriver, there's going to be these 2 other screws, like this one and this one, that hold the unit in place. And then once you've taken out those screws, these things will come out. And then once you've taken out the switch, a voltage tester is very necessary, and I highly recommend it for any job you're ever going to be doing. And the way this one works, which was a cheap one I got from my local hardware store, is you press this button and it will beep. And if it only beeps once, so you hold the button down, that means that there's no power. So right now there's no power on this wood thing, and there's no power in this wall socket. But when you turn the power back on, as I will do now by rotating that switch, when we take our voltage checker, we'll see that this thing now lights and beeps a lot to indicate that this is a live thing. You want to be really careful. So getting to the actual wiring job that you'll do for your particular smart switch, in this case, what you're going to note here is how, of these 4 wires, even when your lights are off, which they are, only one of them, either your line wire or your load wire, will have voltage going into it. So because these are very close together, I'm not doing a great job explaining this. I also don't want to get shocked. But the way you identify the line wire is that you will plug in the power, and your line wire will be the only wire here that has current going into it. Your line wire, your load wire will be the other one, the white wire will be your neutral wire, and the green wire will be your ground wire. And sometimes the green wires are just bare copper, so as you can see right here, I've just have this green wire connected to the copper. And on this particular smart switch, when you press it, it turns on and off the lights. So this is just turning the lights either off or on, so the light's still off. When I press it again, I think it beeps a little bit. It's a cute little thing. Anyways, the light comes on. And that's it. So I don't want to, I only have one hand, but basically be very careful when you do this, and if you're uncomfortable, obviously hire an electrician to do this, because I don't want to be the one getting sued for anyone getting shocked out there. And the tools you'll need to actually change this switch are usually very easy to use. Use your voltage checker accordingly to identify what your line wire is, and then once you've identified your line wire, actually plugging in everything into the wall should be pretty straightforward. So I hope this video helps. I'm sorry I didn't necessarily do a great job of demonstrating how you identify your line wire, but I just wanted to do a quick video to help explain this. So if I had more time, what I would do is you would look at each one of these 4 wires, you would separate the 4 wires as far away from each other, and you would press each wire. So this thing is, it's just identifying. I think this whole area has voltage in it right now, so this house isn't a great example to be working on, but in most cases you'll be able to very quickly determine which wire is your line wire by seeing when this thing goes off, when it's in contact with that wire, and then the other wire will be your load wire, white will be neutral, and then green will be ground, and your ground isn't necessarily required for these switches. So hope this helps, and thanks for watching.